XGBoosting is a fast, regularized gradient boosting algorithm built over highest performance and accuracy. Now, the question might be coming into your mind why that is so, and why that is best over all other algorithms, and why it is a loved algorithm by everybody. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we are going to understand the concepts of XGBoosting and why it is the most famous and advanced algorithm over all other algorithms. And based on what, or what is the fundamental behind it, on that it has the best working principle over all other algorithms. So we will explore that right now. Let's do that now. So here we are with our XGBoosting understanding, and let's do that. So what is a meaning of XGBoosting? So XGBoosting stands for extreme gradient boosting. Extreme gradient boosting, and why it is extreme and everything, we will explore that. But before going ahead, you should understand that XGBoosting is the most scalable and the most optimized algorithm over all other algorithms present in ensemble techniques, and it has a core algorithm which has been used, that is nothing but decision tree. And decision tree, like I already mentioned, is a algorithm which has been used by almost all ensemble techniques. It's not like that you cannot use any other algorithms, you can use, but it is based on, or it works better with the decision tree as a weak model. And the term why it is called as extreme, because it is going through the hard process. I mean, most advanced techniques, the most rigorous systems and everything, it is going, and through that it is becoming extremely good as a performance part of it. That's why it is called extreme gradient boosting, and we will explore how, or based on what, or what exactly is happening. Based on that, it is working in such a way. So what are the core concepts? Whenever we are going ahead with any algorithm, we should understand the core concept. So what is a core concept? So first one is it is an ensemble learning, and it is based on the sequential methods. What exactly is sequential methods? So the first principle of every algorithm, what exactly it is? It has to understand the errors, and it has to minimize the errors every time. That is the core concept of our any learning in a machine, right? So here also it is, suppose we have first weak learner or the base model which we are talking about. It will take that and it will understand what are the errors, or what are the mistakes it can do. It will first analyze that and it will correct in the second model. So like that, it will correct till n number of model, and it will give you the weighted sum of output. It is not like it will give you direct output. It will take the weighted sum of outputs and it is going to give you. And during this process, the way it is working, the core principle it is working is nothing but the gradient descent method. And we understood what is gradient descent method in our gradient boosting, the principles, how exactly it is working. Even the mathematical concept also we understood. So here the same principle it is taking. However, it has some added advantage. For that reason, it is talking about as a extreme gradient boosting, and we'll explore that. So in this image, if you see, so we have, I will summarize what exactly is present here. So we have, step 1, like 3.1. In 3.1, we have some mistakes. It is taking that, and it is correcting those mistakes in 3.2. And in 3.2, if some mistakes are left behind, then in 3.3 it is going to correct, and it is going to fine tune in that method or in that fashion. So that's how it is working. And during this process, the main goal of it is nothing but it will reduce the loss, and it will use the regularization method. So in short, if somebody will ask in interview, what exactly is the gradient boosting? So you just need to mention that a weak learner plus gradient, right, plus your decision tree. Here, this is your decision tree plus your regularization. So if somebody will ask, you can explain in these 3 terms. So these 3 terms you need to remember. Our base model should be here decision tree, and that decision tree is using the gradient boosting to reduce the loss, and we are using learning rate for that, right? We are using learning rate for that, and to handle the overfitting thing, because when during the process it will the way the learning rate is getting used, definitely the learning rate should be small, but the way the learning rate is used, there is a high chance that the model can go overfitting, right? So to handle that, it is using regularization technique, and we understood what are the regularization techniques. Regularization techniques are the techniques where we are using the penalties. Those penalties are nothing but the constants which are getting added up, in our loss, and with that the loss is getting reduced step by step. So that's how a regularization technique. So that is the first one where we are talking about ensemble method, and here we are using sequential type of ensemble method. Then the second one which we have is nothing but your objective function. What is objective function? Like I said, that we have to take a base learner. So that one we are going to take, and that objective functions on that learning process have two things. One is a training loss. What is a training loss? Like I already mentioned, the errors. During training, whatever the errors it is able to find out, that error is going to be handled by the weak learner too. Like there are different learners here. So, and each learning, it is getting improved, its learning process. So, for example, when we are talking about errors, what is the error for regression? Mean, absolute error, or mean square error, or RMSE. And for classification, we have log loss, right? We have log loss for what? Log loss for binary. We have, in decision tree, we have entropy, right? So these kind of different losses we have. Then we are using another one, like I already mentioned, regularization. L1 and L2, Lazo and Ridge regularization we are using in case it will be overfitting. Then we have one more function which is nothing but a gradient descent, right? And based on that gradient descent, the boosting method is working. And I already mentioned how our gradient boosting works. It is working based on a learning rate. And I already have shown that it is completely based on the point. What is the point? A point called global minima. So our loss, whenever we are considering loss, the loss has to take, has to be minimized at each learning step, and finally it will converge at one point, that is nothing but a global minima point. And at each point where the loss is getting reduced, that is nothing but a local minima point, right? And in short, if somebody will ask what is global minima, then you can say that where gradient descent is 0, where loss is minimum, that is nothing but a local global minima point. Local minima is nothing but it's taking a traffic. Let me draw it so that it will be easier for you. If this is your, these are your features. Okay, these are your features. And the way it is learning, your model will start at one point, like your base model will start at one point, and it will cross that point like this. So, when the model is learning, it has to stop somewhere, and that stop is nothing but this. If a model wants, it can go till this. But if you want, you can limit your model till here. And that is nothing but your global minima. How it is calculating? So suppose this is, how it is calculating? This is the point here. Then this is one point here. This is one point here. This is one point here. Like that it is going to calculate. Right? This is the way it is reducing. This is the way it is reducing. So if you see the angle, here it is more, it is more, it is more. And here it is very minimum. Right? Here it is very minimum. And that's how it is calculated. So gradient is nothing but your delta m by delta x. Right? That's nothing but a slope. Then what is the next point which we are going to understand here? We have to understand the learning rate. And I already have explained about learning rate. So learning rate again is a constant which we are adding to understand how better our model is learning. So if somebody will ask what is, like, based on how our model is learning, you need to mention these words. You need to mention weights. You need to mention learning rate. What are weights? Weights are something when we are, when our model is learning throughout the process, we are adding weights. Why we are adding weights? So that the learning process will be smoother. We are adding learning rate for what? We are adding learning rate to understand how better our model is learning, and how we are accompanying that. We are accompanying with gradient boosting, and with gradient boosting we can be able to see that our model is learning, and at one point the loss will be less. And how our learning rate and loss are related? Learning rate will be, if learning rate will be less, then the way or the way our model is learning, or the losses will be lesser, because it will take small steps in learning, and it will reach, and there is a high chance of less overfitting. There won't be any overfitting as well, because the learning process is smoother. When the learning rate is more, it will take big steps to reach the global minimum, and there's a chance that it will miss few of the important aspects of features, and there your learning rate should be less. So that's how we need to infer our understanding. The learning rate you can take less, or either you can take more, based on the requirement of your model. It's not like always you should take less, based on the requirements of your model. So that's how your shrinkage or learning rate works. Then one more important aspect why our XG boosting works super fast, that is nothing but your parallelization using the available CPU cores. What exactly is parallelization, and what is the CPU core? Every system had some cores associated to that, and CPU is nothing but a brain of your computer, right? So to distribute that responsibility of your work, we have different cores present in our system. So if you'll go to your properties of your system, you should be able to see what is the core of your system. Just try that today, and you should be able to see whether it's a 2 core, 4 core, 8 core. So the more core, the better performance that model is going to be, or so that system is going to have. Here in this case, even though it is a sequential process, it is handling the parallelization. How it is handling the parallelization? Once we are initializing, or once we are giving input to the base model, all the training data we are giving input, it will be assigned to all cores at the same time. And we have one property for that. What is that property? We have n underscore jobs equal to -1. If we do that, it is going to take all training data, and it is going to distribute in all cores. So whenever some process is happening, it will run, or it will take each core or each core's performance, and it will understand that. That's why it is not waiting for one process to complete. Every process can be done parallelly by your CPU, and that's an advanced feature. And that's an advanced feature to handle as well, right? So that's how your XGBoost work, and that's why it is so fast and scalable as well because of that. So here in this XGboosting, it has one more approach to handle missing values as well. So during the process, it will automatically learn. Suppose we in one particular sample, suppose we have 100 rows, and in that 100 rows we have suppose 10 rows which are having null values. It will ignore that. And it will take all the other 90 rows, and it will understand the pattern from that. So in case if you'll ask me that whether it has the capability to handle missing values, it has the capability to handle missing values, and it is going to be have less effect. If missing values are also there, it is going to have a less effect on the model. Then one more important aspect is tree pruning. We understood what is the meaning of pruning. Pruning is a technique when the model feels that there is a chance of when during my learning process, if there is a chance of getting overfit, then it will remove, or it will take out that load from that place, and it will continue its learning. With that, what exactly is happening? It is going to eliminate the weak features from the learning process. So that's how our pruning works. And Here we have a gamma parameter it is using a gamma parameter, and that's a hyperparameter. What exactly it is happening? It is getting used to control the loss reduction, to control the minimum loss reduction, and it will control the split as well. That parameter will control the split. If splits will not meet some of the criteria, then it will stop there. It will not go further. And that's how, because it has so many advanced techniques to control over, that's why it has a good chance of preventing overfitting as well. And for very large data sets, like I already mentioned, it is using the out of core computation. These are the properties, guys, you need to remember. Out of core computation, what exactly is happening? If you have a very large data sets and so many features in that, then what exactly it is doing? It will not entirely fit the data into memory. What exactly it is going to do? It will use the disk storage of your system, and it will enable the data from that storage whenever it is needed. So it is using the storage capability as well, as a back process. So with that, it is able to handle the large amount of data as well. Then sparsity aware split finding. What exactly is sparsity? Sparse data. What exactly it is sparse data? When we have zeros and names in our data set. So in short, I can say that if a data is having many zeros and missing values, then we are calling that as a sparse data. And that can be an interview questions, guys. So just remember that sparse data is nothing but the data with many zeros and missing values. So like I already mentioned, it can handle those data as well. And I already explained the process, how exactly it is happening. Then it is flexible and portable with almost all languages. So it can be the libraries which we have for XGBoosting can support in multiple interfaces, where Python, R, Java, C++, and runs on various platforms in distributed environments. Like we have Hadoop and Spark. In those environments also we can run it. And guys, after this we will understand how exactly it is working, how our machine works, like what is the back process exactly. We will understand that by taking a very small example or small data set. And why I'm doing that? Because you should have the knowledge exactly how it is working. If somebody will ask how exactly the XGBoost work, yeah, we understood the principles. We know what exactly how it is working parallelly, how disk storage is happening. Everything we understood, but we need to know how mathematical it is working. That is important, right? So we will explore that after this theoretical part. We have again certain advantages, and there's like pros and cons, I can say that, for XGBoosting. So one of the thing is it is good and understandable algorithm as compared to others to understand or to make the predictions easy. That is one of the thing. And it's a robust method which prevents overfitting quite easily because it is using regularization technique, and along with that it is using the learning rate to handle the loss. That's why it is good. It can perform well with small to medium data set, but again, whenever we are talking about the large data set, I already said that it is using disk storage, and it is a kind of sensitive thing to handle. It is not a scalable method, again, scalable approach to handle. So, and it can be handling, or it has the capability to handle regression and classification tasks throughout the world. Any tasks it can take, and it can work. Then we have again disadvantages at the same time. Like I already mentioned, one thing is, even though it has a good scalability method, in few of the cases like large data sets and all, it is not able to handle it well. Why? Because like I already mentioned, to maintain those aspects, like it needs many like high cores CPU. Then we should have a disk storage again for maintaining the large data sets. Again, more cost incurring will be there in those aspects to any enterprises. So for that reason, it is good, it is best. But again, you need to handle it with a medium to small data sets, not with large data sets and not with the high, so many features. And one more aspect is it will work well with, structured data set. However, it will not work with unstructured data set. What is a structured data set and unstructured data set? Structured data sets are nothing but where we have no zeros, no nulls values. Then we do not have any chance of outliers because it is not able to prevent outliers as well. Because why it is not able to prevent outliers? You must be having one question in your mind. Because it is it is understanding the mistakes from the previous model and it is proceeding with the next model. And even though outlier is there or not, it won't care because it is just taking them as a normal features. It is not able to understand whether that's an outlier or not. There is no technique for that, right? In the while learning process. So for that reason, it is sensitive to outliers and it is not better or not good with the unstructured data. So definitely, there one more point must be coming into your mind. Do we have to treat them before taking further? Yes, you have to treat them before proceeding further during your learning process. So that's what our completion of XGBoosty, and we will explore the mathematical part just now. So let's do that. So here I have taken a small data set where I'm just saying that we have just three students data, and based on their amount of hours they are studying, their verdict, or they will be passed or they will be failed. So we have 1 hour of study, one data, we have 5 hours and we have 9 hours. So the initial steps will be a machine does not know anything. So what they will do, they will start with the base probability. First they will start with the base probability. Like they will just take, okay, what could be the chances of, a student getting passed. So they will start with that. So for that, what they will do, they will first see what are the passes, what are the fails. So we have 2 pass, 1 fail, right? So for that, it will take log of 2 divided by 1. It's going to come as 0.693. And after that, what exactly it is going to do? They will calculate the probability. So we know what is the probability. We are using sigmoid function here. So for sigmoid function, what is the formula? 1 divided by 1 plus 2 e to the power 0.693. So here if I'll go for a calculation, how much I'm getting. So here I'm just getting around 0.66. So I got the probability. So first my machine will say, okay, chalo itna leke hum chalte hain. Like let's go further with 0.66. Okay. Then after that, what they will do? They will, what will be the final table? Let's explore that. Let's go ahead with our final table. So this is my student A, B, C. These are my hours, 1, 5 and 9. These are my probability P. That's nothing but 0.66, 0.66 and 0.66. We got this much. We are clear. Okay, my machine takes initial probability and it is moving ahead. Then what is the next step here? When we are talking about gradient boosting, the second point is we have to calculate the gradients. So here we have left one more thing here, right? We have y011. So my gradient or g is going to be, this is going to be minus 0.66. This is going to be my plus 0.33 plus 0.33. We got our gradients. Now next step is what? The likelihood. It will understand the likelihood. Okay, whatever the probabilities we have taken, whatever gradients I have got, how better it is going to be or how feasible it is going to be. It is going to check that. And for that, there is a calculation called Hessian calculation, and that formula is nothing but P into 1 minus P. So that formula is going to be that. P into 1 minus P. So we will explore that. But before that, what will be our, what is the inference it is doing? If my gradient, let's write it here. If my gradient equal to higher, that means over predicting, or the prediction is high, right? When you're saying that the gradient equal to lower or negative, so higher means here it is positive, lower means it is negative. That means my model is less predicting, or it is not predicting well. So this is our inference, and to tackle that we have this method Hessian. This is called Hessian. So now we will calculate, and we will see what is the final table for that. So this is my hours 159, and this is my P 0.66, 0.66, and this is going to be my G minus 0.66 plus 0.33 plus 0.33, and I'm going to get my Hessian. It's H. So P into 1 minus P, I think it's going to be, let me calculate, P into 1 minus P. So it's going to be 0.22, 0.22, 0.2. Now what is the next thing? Now the tree concept will come. Till now it is just going ahead with the intuition. Now it will go into the first trace. So here we are seeing that clearly, that if my hours is less than 3, then there is a chance of fade or of 0. Else the chance of pass is there, right? That means we are getting two nodes here, one greater than 3, one less than 3. Now we will see what is the G value, what is the gradient value, what is the Hessian value overall for these two. So in short, if I'll say that for my student A, this is for my student A, this is for my student A, this is for my B and C, right? What is the summation of G? Summation of G is nothing but we have like 0.66, right? And summation of H, Hessian, it's nothing but 0.44. Here this should be minus, and here in case of sorry, this is plus. In case of positive, what exactly it is going? Summation of G, again 0.66, and summation of H is 0.2. We found these details, right? We found all our gradient, final gradient, and final Hessian for each node. Now we found that okay, this is the gradient, this is the thing. But to know the accuracy of them, what exactly is the thing we are adding? We are adding regularization. And for regularization, what is the formula? What is the constant we are using? We are using lambda. Yeah, right? In case of our regression, we are using alpha. You remember we have used alpha. Alpha we have taken for hyperparameter is 0, 0.001, 0.01, then 1 we have taken, and we are calculating the result out of it. So here we are taking alpha. So let's see what could be the alpha rate we can take here. And to handle that, what is the formula? What is the formula? What we are exactly assigning here? We are assigning weights, and we are calculating weights here with regularization. So let's do that. So my weight formula, we need to calculate the right node and the left node. So this is my left node weight formula. This is my right node weight formula. So what exactly it is going to be? So the weight formula is nothing but minus summation of G divided by summation of H plus lambda. Minus summation of G divided by summation of H plus lambda. So we will calculate. We know summation of G. What exactly is the summation of G? So 1 is going to be minus 0.667 divided by, so summation of h is for minus 0.22. Let's take our lambda because the beta lambda is going to be 1 and we already saw that in our hyperparameter tuning. So that we are going to take 1 and this is going to be 0.66 divided by 0.44 plus, so my bad, it looks bad, I mean this number 0.44 plus 1. And we will calculate the values. Let's calculate the values. Let me calculate it. Let me add it and by using calculator. So this value I am getting 0.46 and this value I am getting I'm getting somewhere around 0.54. So yeah, so we are getting that value. Suppose we are getting that value. Now, what is the next step? We have to apply our learning rate. Learning rate. Learning rate, what is the denotation? Eta equal to 1. We are taking eta equal to 1. Then, what is the formula or how we are calculating the learning rate? Now, my final table is going to be my student A, B, C. So here my learning rate actually, I have like this is the base assumption. But for better output, what exactly I taught you? We need to take less learning rate so that my model will understand the pattern really well. So let me take my eta value 0.4 or 0.5. So just for better understanding. And let's see, this is my student. And this is my y value, this is y new, sorry, y old, this is going to be my y new. And what is the formula for y new? Equal to y old minus what? It's going to be eta into your w. That's going to be my final formula or final calculation. It's not minus, actually it is plus. So once we will calculate here, we will get some values. My value was 0.69 or something, I believe. So here we will get some values. And that value will be in terms of minus and in terms of plus. Some value we will get here. Now, what is the inference? Like what is the final outcome we are understanding here? So our machine or our model is understanding, okay, if I will take, negative means it is understanding that if my student will study less than 3, that means definitely we can predict that, or that's like they have to predict it as a fail. And if my student is studying more than 3, then there is a high chance of my student will pass. That is the inference which we are understanding from. And as our machine is always based on, the understanding of probability, in terms of probability also, it will say that, okay, my model, the probability of pass will be less if my model, or if my student will study less than 3 hours. My probability of pass will be more if a student will study more than 3 hours. And this is for one tree. Then there will be additional features, right? Additional features, they will keep on adding throughout. And then they will start moving ahead for further learning. And finally, it will come to a conclusion based on all the other features of, or that's why we are talking about as a patterns. So this is how our mathematical intuitions. Guys, if you really like the content, please go ahead and start subscribing and like as much as possible, because without that, we will not grow together, right? So just like, share your comments, any doubts, anything, any questions, immediately you can comment and I am ready to help there in case you have any kind of queries. And let's start our community, posts as well. Like we have a learners community. So there also you can go and start posting your doubts, your questions. Let's make it interactive, guys. Let's make it interactive. I think this is a point where we are coming closer for machine learning, and we will go ahead with the advanced concepts, and let's clear all our doubts. Let's clear all our doubts right now. Is the right time for that. And see you in our next video, and we will understand the practical aspects of XGBoosting. We have one classifier, one regressor, right? XGBoosting. So we will explore that. And yeah, see you till that time. And while subscribing, guys, if you're a new person, if you're subscribing, then just hit the bell icon for all kind of latest updates. So see you. Bye. Take care till that time.